Hey there, I am back with a deck preview for the Elves deck from Fris Cards. This upcoming Kickstarter campaign comes from some first-time creators out of Italy, and it's a celebration of the fantasy genre and the elven race. Great theme, and one that really speaks to me as a fan of fantasy myself. And I've had the pleasure to talk to the creators of this deck for a long time over the months and years that led to making this deck a reality. So very excited that they were able to share one of the prototype decks with me, and excited to get a chance to share it with you guys. Now, if you like what you see here, make sure to check out the link in the description and consider backing the Kickstarter campaign for yourself. But let's get into it and see how they did with their very first deck. All right, so starting off with the tuck box. These tuck boxes are made by Boschero and Newton out of Italy. The best tuck box makers anywhere. I'll stand by that any day. They do an amazing job with their intricate foiling and embossing. Just produces some of the most luxurious effects you'll see anywhere. And the Elves deck really does a great job with that. It's done on a black matte cardstock with 3 different colors of foiling. We get the gold accents in here, along with that darker green and the more luminescent kind of glowing green here in the center. Beautiful design work on this, lots of detail, and that subtle embossing just gives it that really nice texture. You get that diamond in the center with the Elves deck, the little spade pip here at the bottom, and then everything kind of filled in with the creeping vines all the way through. The vine work really nicely done, just glows with that foil, and a great contrast between the bright colored foil and that dark tuck box. Finishes out with a nice ornate border, kind of gives you the feel of a really fancy book cover. So you turn to the sides, it just says Elves on one side and then Forest on the other, kind of a hint that maybe there'll be some future versions of the Elves deck in store if this one's successful. Bottom just has your ad copy for Fris Cards, mentions USPCC, who's going to print the final version of the deck. And then at the top here, you get just the pips, lots of little ornate details all the way around. Back has a foiled and embossed version of the back design of the cards. Tons of greens and golds in here that really just look and feel great on the tuck box. As you open up, inner flap has more of those ornate details, that vine work twisting its way around. Also on the smaller inner flaps. And on the interior here, you get a little peek at one of the things that's going to be a stretch goal in the campaign, and that's the interior foiling. Features an image of a map of the elf kingdom all the way through. I get a little bit of a look at it here. So they also shared with me one of the uncut tuck sheets from Boschero and Newton. And on the flip side, you can get a look at the map that they have planned for the interior foiling. So definitely hoping that that stretch goal hits. But all in all, a fantastic tuck box. Boschero and Newton always do a great job, but the artwork on this one, I think, really well done as well. So just a really ornate and beautiful tuck box. But let's get into the cards themselves. We'll start with the back design. And here it is. Definitely has a very classic vibe to it. Elves always very close to nature. And so the theme here definitely carried through with the trees and the vine work all the way through. Lots of detail in this one. The twisting vines all over the place, but still has kind of a classic vibe. The 2 focal points, kind of like you'd see on like a casino style back. And then lots of details, the little tiny pops of gold in there, a nice kind of breakup from an otherwise kind of monochrome back design. And then you get that nice little border around the edge, and then the thin white poker border around the edges. And a little call out on this one, the final deck is going to be made by USPCC, so you can expect the borders to be even thinner than what you see here. Make Playing Cards, who did the prototypes, has a little bit of a limitation on how thin they can make the borders. But really nicely done on the card backs. I like the design on this one, kind of a classic mixed with a very thematic approach. All right, and then we get onto the deck itself, starting with the Jokers. Now the final deck in USPCC fashion is going to have 4 different Jokers, but the prototype has just 3. That's again just sort of a limitation of MPC. And here we get a look at some of the gods of the elven kingdom. Starting off with sort of a main character in the overall deck. This is Varaliath. Varaliath was once a light elf, a goddess of the light elves, but she turned to the occult and then became one of the first dark elves. And while she was sort of exploring the dark side, she met with her partner Lysanthar, and together they became the god and the goddess of the dark elves. They created the race of dark elves and sort of rebelled against the light. So beautiful illustrations on these, all one-way designs on these with the Joker in the corner, and just really nice artwork. All the artwork you see in here, hand drawn, and really great talent on display on these. Definitely fits that fantasy vibe. And then the third Joker on this deck is the counterpart to the Dark Elves. So this is the goddess of the Light Elves. This is Meridian. Her partner Selioth is actually going to be the fourth of the 4 Jokers in the final deck, but we get a look at the third Joker here, the Archer with the arrows slung on her back. Another really nice design and great contrast to the purple skin of the Dark Elves. So definitely the evil and good vibe at play with these. All right, but now on to the main deck, and we'll start off with the 4 aces. So the Ace of Spades, your power ace, features that large ornate spade pip in the center. Definitely, again, kind of fitting with that classic vibe, the little gold vine work all the way through. Really nice ornate feel to it. The Elves deck with Fris Cards there at the bottom, and then a calligraphy-inspired font for the index. Again, nice fitting with the theme. Every detail pretty well thought out in this deck, and then kind of a classic spade pip. The other 3 aces have the same basic aesthetic. Obviously, we go with the reds for the red cards, but really nice vine work as well on these. Really like what was done on these. Club, that's probably my favorite of them. You can kind of get a little bit of a Celtic vibe on these as well. So not just the fantasy feel, but a little bit of Celtic feel to them as well. And then there's your diamond pip. So nice large pips on the ace. I always like when that's done, and I like when you get 4 custom pips for the aces. And the custom pips don't stop there. All of the number cards feature custom pips as well. A little bit simpler, obviously, than the ace pips because they are smaller, but you do get some custom embellishments in there in that gold color that really kind of set those off and give them a little bit of a different feel to them. But otherwise, very nice familiar pips overall. Your blacks are black, your reds are that classic red color. So it's going to be familiar if you want to use this for gameplay, but a little bit something extra to fit with the theme. And there's the clubs, kind of has that feel almost like a fountain there in the center of the club pip. And then into the diamonds. That's probably my favorite of the pip designs. I really like how the diamonds turned out. And that is the number cards. And then we get to the court cards. And the court cards are a celebration of the realm of the elves, and each one of them going after one of the 4 different races of elves. So if you're not as familiar with fantasy, you'll maybe think of elves as being a single race. But as you explore different, more in-depth fantasy explorations, you'll find many different sort of subspecies of the elves. And so each one of the suits here goes after one of those species, starting with the spades here with a look at the dark elves. So these were the ones, as we mentioned in the beginning, that were created from the union of Valeriath and Lysanthar. And so those god and goddess of the dark elves created this race of creatures that lived down in the dungeons and the caves of the world. They took on this dark skin and a love for magic and a hunger for power. And so all of them kind of definitely had that very sort of evil vibe to them, the anger in their faces. You can see them with their magic staffs. And the beautiful backgrounds on these as well, showing the caves they live in. Love the purples and the blues that are brought in on these. And again, just really nice hand-drawn artwork on these. So that's your first of the races, the look at the Dark Elves. Next one is sort of their counterpart, and we get a look at the hearts with the Gray Elves. So the Gray Elves were created by the god and goddess of the light, Meridian and Selioth. And they were created ages ago. They were basically the first race of elves that were created. And today they serve as sort of the noblemen, the legendary warriors of the time. They're all said to be fierce fighters, and they sort of serve as the ruling class, if you will. They're very kind of above everybody else. You'll often find them living in castles and keeps. You can see the castle there in the background of the King of Hearts. And as you explore deeper into the campaign, if you do end up backing the cards, each one of the court cards kind of has their own little backstory. So I won't get into that. I'll leave something to discover as you get into the campaign for yourself. But really love the depth and the artwork that they put into all of these. So really nicely done. Love the harp here in the background of the Queen of Hearts. So there are your 3 of the Gray Elves. The clubs now go into the Forest Elves. And these, if you've seen like Lord of the Rings or something like that, this is probably the style of elf that you think of the most. These elves all live in the forest. and they're generally kind of a peace-loving people. And so where some of the other elves are often at war with each other, the forest elves kind of keep to themselves. Now, they're experts in archery, so they're able to defend themselves. They're said to be able to shoot a bow further than any human has ever even dreamed of. And they do have an immense dislike, an immense hatred for the dark elves. But rather than fighting them, they choose to kind of avoid them, stay off on their own, and they sort of keep to themselves in the forests. So look at the 3 of the forest elves there. And then finally, we come to the half elves. So as the elves sort of realm through the world, they inevitably sort of came into contact with humans, and that led to the creation of a sort of hybrid race. These are all half human, half elves. But ironically, in this world, they're sort of shunned by both species. So both humans and elves sort of look down on them as creatures. So often you'll find these half elves living near humans, but usually kind of on the outskirts of town, sort of this lower class of character there. But they definitely have that more human characteristic to them, whether it's in their clothes or even their occupations. You can see their villages there in the back. Really love the background here with the bottles for the barmaid serving as the Queen of Diamonds. But very nice look to these as well. And again, just that last look at the fantastic artwork that went into this deck. And that is it. That is the Elves deck. So very cool artwork, great thematic work done all the way around, and a truly outstanding tuck box. Make this a campaign that, for me, definitely worth checking out. I'm going to be a backer for this one, and hope you'll join me and consider taking a look at the Elves deck. But anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed this one. Like I said before, make sure to check out that link down in the description if you want to consider backing the Elves deck for yourself. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.